Hi students, it's Mrs. Kern here, wanting to help you understand a little bit more about genetics. So normally when we think about genetics, the term DNA is a term that you hear very often. DNA being that code, that genetic information that makes you you and me. So that DNA, we've seen this twisted double helix that was created to show what it looks like. But most of the time in our cells, when it's time for the cell to make more, like you saw in mitosis, this DNA has to condense into the shape of a chromosome. And oftentimes a chromosome looks like this, like an X. When it condenses into a chromosome, it looks more like this, but it wraps itself, it's DNA wrapped around proteins. So the information is compacted to make it easier to travel to another cell. So like in mitosis, when you saw the chromosomes line up in the middle, this is an easier way for that information to be transported. So on a chromosome, there are different sections. So I want you to think about that. Different sections. And it may help you to pause the video and draw this image for yourself, or to follow along. So think about it like if this pipe cleaner was the chromosome and there were different sections, I might use different beads to represent those sections. Different color beads, different size beads, different genes code for different things. So each of these beads is going to be considered a gene. So a section on a chromosome is a gene. A gene. That gene might have more than one form, as you saw in some of the other videos. But a gene, when we talk about genes, not like what teachers want to wear to work, but genes like G-E-N-E, gene, as in genetic information. We're talking about a section of a chromosome, which is really part of your DNA. So the Human Genome Project's goal was to map out all the genes in the human body and figure out what they are coded for. And what they discovered is that there was anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000 genes on the human genome. The human genome being like a complete set of DNA from a person. Now, sometimes you have genes for a trait. You have genes for traits like hair color and skin color and eye color. And you have more than one version of that gene. So maybe, draw this here, this section right here. Maybe on this part of the chromosome, I have the version for straight hair. But on this part of the chromosome, I have the version for curly hair. So these different versions are called alleles. So an allele is basically saying like which gene did you get? Did you get the gene is for hair color, but then you might get curly hair or straight hair, or you might get brown eyes or blue eyes or green eyes. You might be tall, you might be short, you might have freckles, you might not have freckles, you might be able to roll your tongue or not. So each of these traits has a gene that codes for them that's part of a chromosome, and that chromosome is really just your DNA wrapped around proteins. If I want to know which version of that trait, it's called an allele. Allele. Yes, you know how I like to make you repeat after me in class, so this is no different. So DNA, if you want to get fancy, DNA is called DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. If you want to say that with me, deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid, also known as DNA for the short version. We have chromosomes. Chromosomes, it's Greek, so that CH makes the K sound. And then that trait has a gene. the gene that codes for it, the type of gene that you have, that variation of the gene is called the allele. And you're going to see as we go on that there are dominant alleles and recessive alleles. Dominant being more powerful in the sense that if the dominant allele is present, then it hides the recessive allele. For recessive traits, you have to have 2 of those. So, DNA, chromosomes, gene, alleles. So we're getting smaller as we go. DNA is the largest, most stretched out thing. Then you have a chromosome when it's twisted down. Then you can see there are genes. And if I showed you more than one, you could see that they code for different traits. So sometimes each section codes for something different. So these variations are called alleles. Thank you for watching, and as always, you are loved more than you know.